Hey, free-to-play gang, welcome back to another video. I apologize slightly, I am a little bit under the weather right now. I've been hit by my allergies again, so my voice sounds kind of weird and my energy level is extremely low as well. Anyway, let's talk about 3.2.6. I'm gonna try to make this as pleasant as possible for you guys. So we're gonna start off with Valeria and then, obviously the new Espers. And finally, the rest of the content and the changes in this game, except the Esper balance changes. We are actually not going to be able to see the Esper balance changes in this patch notes. For some reason, I'm honestly not sure why. I mean, come on, couldn't they just put in some extra lines just to explain the changes to these Espers? I have no idea why they excluded them from this patch note. Anyway, Valeria, let me try it again. Quetzalcoatl. 5-star flow type, Valeria is a fighter Esper who excels at taking rapid action. Okay, so we already know that she's gonna gain a lot of turns. Ability 1 launching type deals damage to one enemy based on attack. Has a chance of reducing their AP. Each speed grants extra damage. Okay, so this is kind of like Sander, right? Reducing AP, grant extra damage. Ability 2 plum feathers. This is a passive, so she is a passive based Esper. Valeria gains snake shape and power reserve for one turn at the end of her turn. When power reserve effects are triggered, her AP is increased. So take note that this is her AP is increased. Now, ability 3 serpent surge. Valeria gains speed up for 2 turns, deals damage to one enemy based on attack. Just one single hit, by the way. Now, each speed grants extra damage and inflicts speed down for 2 turns. After ascension, also clears the enemy's AP. So this is actually pretty interesting. So it's a single hitting skill, gives herself speed up and inflicts speed down for 2 turns. Very nice, and of course, clears the enemy's AP. Is very helpful in bossing content, like for example, Chronos, for butter, not talking about Sentinel Hunt here, and maybe even RTA as well. But let's take a look at what Snake Shape does. Amplifies basic ability damage. Okay, so this is my problem, right? If you're gonna amplify basic ability damage, then why do you even have it in the first place? Because you're gonna gain it every single turn. Why don't you just inbuild the extra DPS into her first skill? Why do you need to give an excuse with another golden rim buff? I mean, I'm just trying to think out loud here about why there is a need for the Snake Shape, wherein they could have just given her basic attack like more extra DPS, for example, right? So yeah, a bit puzzling. And then power reserve reduces damage taken as well, disappears when attacked. Okay, so this is very interesting, and this is especially so for her R2, which we're gonna jump straight into. So Morph Plum Feathers, which is her passive, grants all allies power reserve at the end of her turn. So now my question is this Plum Feather buff going to increase the AP of her allies, or is it just going to increase her own AP? Because if it's only going to increase her own AP, it is exactly the same as Esenath. So Esenath's third skill, her Lotus Mark. When your allies get hit, they reduce the incoming damage taken. But Esenath is the one who gains the AP. It's not your allies who gains the AP. But of course, this is a passive and it activates on every single one of her turns, which means it really depends on whether does this just affect herself or does it affect her allies that makes it a good R2 in my opinion. So in my own personal opinion, right, this is a lot stronger, alright? I am going to say that she is an R2 Esper if this actually gives individual Espers the AP push. So if your allies get hit, they gain the AP and not her. Because the problem is, if she gains AP, she don't really do a lot on her turn except for dealing some damage based on her AP, reduces AP, that kind of stuff. She don't have a lot built into her kit as opposed to other Espers like maybe Tricky, maybe even Jinyu Yao. Oh my god, this is going to be so good with Jinyu Yao if this AP push actually goes onto Jinyu Yao and not herself. So this is something that we need to clarify. I'm not sure how we're going to clarify because I don't know if I want to invest into her R2 just to test this out, because if it only pushes her AP, then I am a lot less excited. Anyway, let's move on. R4, hasty action, very nice. So if there is an ability on cooldown, speed increases by 20. So this allows her to throw her third skill very often. Very exciting stuff. R6, a new effect is added to launching type, which is her first skill. Now Valeria has a 30% chance of gaining an extra turn. So she has so many different ways of gaining turns. She has AP up, she has speed up, and she even has a passive 30% chance of gaining extra turn on her first skill, which allows her to deal a lot of damage. So I think at R6, she actually has a lot of potential in, maybe just RTA for example, because you have the chance of just triggering so freaking many turns on your first skill and killing everything in one go. So she is 100% going to be a very strong R6 RTA Esper, like 100%. And anyway, the way that you can obtain her is via the Echo after this update, obviously. Now next we have Alolin Pazuzu. So he's a 4-star Wind Esper who is a fighter who excels at inflicting bleed. Now ability 1 Sting Hook deals damage to one enemy based on attack. If the enemy is afflicted with bleed, you then trigger the bleeding effect immediately for one turn. So if the enemy has like 5 stacks of 2 turns bleed, the enemy will take 5 stacks of damage and be left with 1 turn of each of these bleeding stacks. then inflicts bleed for 2 turns. Now, ability 2, Plague Famine. It's a passive. If an enemy makes their allies bleed and early, so if they get cleansed, reduce Alolin's all ability cooldowns by, I think, by 1 turn. Trigger times per turn are limited, so I think if the enemy cleanse bleeds, then Alolin's cooldown is actually going to go down by 1, which is really nice, by the way. So ability 3, Veiled Gust. Deals damage to all enemies 3 times based on attack. Each hit has a chance of dispelling 1 buff from the enemy, and each hit inflicts bleed for 2 turns. After Ascension, Alolin gains stealth for 2 turns. Okay, so what I really like about this passive and his third skill is that he may not even necessarily need to be bleed related. Like, you can just use him to deal damage, and by the enemy cleansing the bleed, which is like whatever, right? Bleeding damage isn't really all that big of a deal anyway. It doesn't do true damage. The damage is affected by defense buffs, it's affected by defense breaks, all that kind of stuff. So your damage output is actually very small. It cannot crit as well. So honestly, if the enemies cleanse the bleed and this reduces his ability 3 cooldown, wow, actually he can spam his third skill. So I think this is actually quite good. But of course, the way that you can obtain him is via the championship, which is like, oh my god, kind of cringe. Anyway, Resonances R2 when attacking, 80% chance of ignoring resist, which is it's actually not bad, but the problem with this R2 is it gets competed with his R6, which is a new effect is added to Veiled Gust. Inflicting bleed cannot be resisted. So right now you have a chance of ignoring resist, but at R6 you just cannot be resisted. So it's kind of like a wasted R2 in my opinion. But yes, one might argue that this benefits his S1, but hey, you know, it's his third skill that matters more in my opinion. And the rest of his resonances are like as typical epic espers, so nothing much to talk about. Alright, new features, added the insignia feature. This is just completely just for looks. There is nothing much to it. It's just whatever that you want to showcase on your profile, I think. Now, this second point is also quite important. So after the update, the boss Chimera's third form and the Scotch Messenger will be unlocked for you to challenge. Yes, we understand that. But the season will remain active for an additional 2 weeks after the conclusion of the third phase. So at the end of the upcoming 3.2.6, the Chimera Season 0 Withering Flame will continue for another 2 weeks before it fully completes in 3.2.7, at the end of 3.2.7. So yeah, that's what's gonna happen. We're not gonna get the first actual season in 3.2.7. That's gonna come in at least 3.2.8. Alright, new events, Devouring Beast. This is gonna be pretty similar as whatever that we currently have. Endless Nightmare, this is like the Labyrinth style mode. And we have the Championship, which a lot of you guys hate to see this, right? So the 3 sub-events of the Championship, Relic Enhancement, and Point War. So this is gonna be a pay-to-win fest. Nothing much to talk about for the Championship, except that we can get a new Esper, but probably not gonna be able to get him all the way to R6, which is kind of sad. Alright, so now this is the big part for this coming update. This is the huge part. So point number 4, limited time echo event for Valeria, BREWSTER, and EMBLA. Oh my god. You put the gods of the Inferno types with the flow type Esper, and I'm not sure why they decided to release BREWSTER and EMBLA now, when they could have done so in the previous update where EMBLA is actually used a lot more. Maybe because they want to like balance stuff out. They don't want people to cheat with an R6 EMBLA instantly. But the thing is, oh my goodness, so right now we are going to get 3 banners, 2 of which are extremely broken Espers, BREWSTER and EMBLA. So if you haven't already done so, this is your opportunity to get R6 of both of these Espers. So I personally do not really need EMBLA, I just need to get her via wish stickers. But BREWSTER, hey dude, R6? Absolutely yes dude. And for the Shimmer banner, we're going to get Jiang Jiuli, which in my opinion is going to be a hard skip. Not that he's bad, but the rest of the other Shimmer Espers are probably a lot more worth getting, especially when we don't even know what's coming in Raven's Esper balance. And of course on top of that we have Tever as well. And we even have Feng Nusi, who has not yet had her banner. Now on to adjustments and optimizations, which should have been your Esper balances as well. So they have mentioned that all of these Esper balances will be mentioned in-game, and there will also be rewind items provided to players who have these characters so that you can reset the characters if you feel like the Esper balances is actually bad for your character and you want to have that Esper reset. Or maybe, you know what, this could be a perfect opportunity for you to re-roll your skill points again, right? So make sure that it avoids the first skill and goes into your second and third skill instead. Now, Wish Pool and Resonance Pool optimization. So this is a great change in my opinion. So Wish Pool, after the update, cooldown for resetting wish spins will be shortened from 60 to 21 days. Additionally, the cooldown will be changed to start counting from the moment players perform their spin. So it's a better idea for you to use your Wish Pool as soon as possible, for you to like select whoever that you want as soon as possible, so that you just need to wait 21 days afterwards for you to get your next selection. And furthermore, echo spins for all players will be reset with the update. I'm not super sure what this means. Does this mean that they're gonna reset your echo PT counter? I'm not super sure. If this is the case, then oh my god, this is they need to clarify a lot more than just stating echo spins will be reset after the update. This is quite scary. And now, the following Espers will be available to choose from even if they are not owned. Yun Chuan, amazing. Intisa, EMBLA, and Tiet. Amazing. Very nice. But of course, the issue here is that they have not yet changed Yunchuan from being an R2 to an R0 as well. So getting an R0 Yunchuan is like the least exciting thing ever. And EMBLA at R0, also not so exciting, but I think it's a bigger hit for Yunchuan. Now, Resonance Pool, this is a major update. Oh my goodness. When a player has 10 different legendary espers, the number of wish espers in the Resonance Pool will be reduced to 4, making it a lot easier for you to get the desired esper that you want. And when a player has 15 or more legendary espers, the number will then be reduced to 3. So right now, you just need to gamble a 33% chance for you to get the exact esper that you want from the Resonance Pool. Very nice. Now, Palmy is going to be added to the Echo. And point number 5, some types of excise items will be sellable from the inventory. So your elemental crystal diamonds that you use to fuse your Everett can now be sold for gold at a certain ratio. I am going to be so rich after this. And max resonated esper ripples can also be sold for gold or divine sequencer shop currency at a specific ratio based on their rarity. So I believe one legendary esper ripple is probably going to be worth 1 mono prism. And yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, that's all. So now we have a new pack. That's basically it for 3.2.6. So like I said, this patch notes is actually super freaking short. So I'm not sure why they couldn't just chuck in the esper balance changes over here for us to read. But yeah, anyway, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. How do you feel about Valeria, by the way, right? So what do you expect her R2 is gonna do? This is the main question in my opinion. So if she's gonna work like an Essenath, then I'm really not super excited about it. Because yes, she can take more turns, yeah, do more damage and all that. Okay, cool. But she's the one taking more turns, and she's not gonna do all that much except for dealing damage. Which is a big deal, which is a really big deal. But the thing is, it could be even stronger if instead of her, then the rest of her allies gain AP. Yeah. But anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed today's content. If you did, don't forget to thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now that's it. Yeah. Now that's it. This has been Derek Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.